Joel Hutchins, welcome to the show. As in pre-show, you and I have had some fun talking about your software and your lucky charm to be living down in South Florida. Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you for having me, Anthony. And yeah, I'm very lucky to live down here in sunny Florida and enjoy the Florida lifestyle for sure.
It doesn't sound like a Florida accent. You don't sound. Most of the people down there sound like they're from New York. Where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm Australian, if you can't tell. I'll probably need to slow it down a little bit sometimes. It's quite often that I just get a confused look when I talk to people and what did you just say? But yeah, no, I'm Australian. Been here in the US now for sort of on and off for 3 years, but residing in Florida for just over a year.
It is quite a beautiful spot. I've got a home down there in Boca, and I enjoy going down there. My wife doesn't as much, but I do. I really do enjoy down there, and especially coming, in January, February, March. Those months make it really worthwhile being down in Florida. But great spot to be. So I got in touch with you guys because I really love the product that you have. Slate software is an amazing new platform that's out there. And I think it makes sense for us to tell the audience a little bit about it and, what it does. And I think it's revolutionary where it's taken the construction world.
Yeah, so Slate Technologies is based around artificial intelligence and machine learning and the idea of a digital assistant. So we see this really in our lives everywhere today. Probably one of the best analogies or the best showcase of this is Waze app. You hop in your Waze app and you're heading to work, and this is something that you do every day. You drive that. You probably know it better than anybody on how you're going to get to work. But what Waze does is it looks at what's happening ahead of you. So you've got traffic ahead. And rather than just notifying you that there's traffic ahead, it's looking at all the intersecting data. It's going to say traffic ahead, don't turn left like you normally would because there's road work. Actually do a U-turn, go back around the block, and you're going to get there faster than you would if you sit in traffic. Now, that's the idea of a digital assistant. That's something that's taking data and intersecting data and providing you insights on how you do your life or how you achieve something better. So this is the best sort of showcase of that outside of the construction industry that we've seen. And if you think about this in construction and the idea that there's so many decisions made daily by individuals on the construction site, we need better data. We need better data transfer to people to help them make better decisions. And that's what Slate has really set out to do. And the product that we're bringing to market here is based around the digital assistant for all stakeholders. Now, that's quite a complex thing to say. That's not just hopping in your car and looking at traffic analytics. That's looking at everything relative to the task and what people are doing in construction, but then all the intersecting data, well, just like the car, you've got weather, you've got traffic, you've got all these things that could impact the decision. And so what Slate's doing is looking at how we acquire data, contextualize that, and then provide insights. So in a short sort of elevator pitch, that's what the Slate product is, and that's what we're bringing to market.
For as long as I've been doing this, and now I'm getting old, it's going to be a long time. It has always been plagued by all the good information is stuck in somebody's head. And as you can tell, my head has a lot of information there because it's pushed out the hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're on a job site with someone who's got lots of experience, they can go to a job site and they can cowboy the job site to some production level. And the problem is transferring that data and getting that to work in, for everybody else, that doesn't work. And just as soon as you get a team of people that get it figured out, the people change, right? This business is always plagued with that. And, getting the data, getting the mentality of construction folks to transition from keeping it all in their head to having one source of truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating Slate, I think, does a great job of creating one source of truth that everybody can work from. And I think that's a great place to start looking at it. So how did you guys figure out, how did you find this? And how did you get into this all together?
Yeah, so Slate was sort of born out of some great minds that were brought together to really create this product with the idea of the overall product And then really it was born from there. And that was how I joined. We joined throughout the way of acquisition with Splash Modular. And this is, I guess, when you're talking about dark data or data in the right people's hands, that was really where throughout my career path, it's something that's resonated with me, in my career path, moving from carpentry, architecture, or building architecture, it's really been that evolution, and I've consistently been like working to try and bridge that data or that siloed data to the right people. So yeah, Slate was born out of some creative minds getting together, and then the team's grown. I think we're over 50 employees total now across 4 offices, and bringing a product to market that is just going to get better. And that's the idea here, is that this is a sort of drawing the line, and the more that you engage with systems like this and the new machines, the artificial intelligence machines, the better it gets. So it's exciting times ahead.
One of the things I really notice is that the old workflows that we have don't work anymore, right? As we start to look at, using artificial intelligence and starting to really create these flows that will be intuitive and be able to see it. Some of the work is in creating new workflows, right? Is that a lot of stuff that you guys are conquering today, going through the workflow evolution?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that you touched on it there, is we have new people, and we have these new people joining, and it's really the same processes that we engage with in construction. And, I've heard people talk about, the snowflake mentality. Not every building should be a snowflake. Unfortunately, in some aspect, it always will be. We have so many influencing factors that make it a snowflake. There's weather, no matter how much we do it offsite, there's still going to be traffic on the way to bringing that, or there's still going to be the install of these offsite components coming on site. And so really what you need to do is draw a line and start to digitize those workflows. And, we use the term recipe at Slate, and a recipe is just like that. I like to use the analogy of my mother's or my great-grandmother's chocolate cake recipe. Now, that recipe sits in my mum's drawer. It's folded up bit of paper, and there's 10 different colored pens on it, right? And we can probably all resonate, or we can all reflect on something similar there. But over time, that recipe, this folded bit of paper, has stored the intelligence of this workflow. This workflow and the evolution has, as people engage with it, it's got better. So what was just a chocolate mud cake, the same ingredients as anybody making a chocolate mud cake, is now my great-grandmother's chocolate mud cake. And so really, when you look at construction, it's made up of these chunks of work, these tasks that are all recipes, that are all these workflows. So by bringing them into Slate, that's really how we contextualize the data to make it relevant to provide an insight. So you've got to bring in this data, we've got to look at the traffic scenario, and then we've got to contextualize that relative to the task that it's going to impact. Or if I've engaged with that task in the past, or a similar task on a similar project through a recipe, now I can inform you. And that's really where this intelligence transcends the individual. You make a decision on how you're going to install an outlet, or there's going to be something, and there's a problem comes up, and how you deal with that intersecting data now through the idea of a recipe and artificial intelligence can inform me on a completely different job site. If we're working for the same company, that organization intelligence can now be passed on. And that's really where this technology and the idea of digitizing workflows starts to really come into its own. It's more about what is the evolution by laying that digital thread? How can we now progress?
So let's just kind of start off. So
Yeah.
say we have a new project. Pick a project. What type of project is Slate best suited for?
What is it best suited for? Like, I think anything when we talk about a recipe, it is really on something that is repetitive. So that could be as simple as a window company, or it could go up to even a single family home, right? And if you look at, say, a developer or someone building and the repetitive idea of this townhome, then that recipe, right, that project, as you bring that in and digitize that schedule and understand it at the task level, now is something that is repetitive, right? Even though there might be adaptations for every single family home, there's different site conditions, it's still the chocolate mud cake, it's still the single family home.
Right. One might have sprinkles, one might have frosting, but at the end of the day, So it starts, when we build schedules, there's always kind of a bunch of little components, right? And the thing about them is they're most people in the business write a schedule, and then usually you could take that schedule and move it over to the porta potty.
Pretty much.
And if you hang it in there, when they run out of toilet paper, they'll use that because there's a time that it's toilet paper within a couple of weeks because it's not a schedules are living, breathing, and constantly evolving, right? I mean, there's this never stopping, never ending experience that inspections and weather and availability of people and materials and delivery bus. It's a constant communication piece, and there's usually one person that's in charge of creating the keeper of the knowledge, right? A
Mhm.
project manager, a project management team. There's one spot where that's getting kept. So talk to me a little bit about how Slate does that. How does that happen? And as we start to have these changes, do the subs go in and make the changes, or does the project manager go and make the change? How does that get communicated to the team?
Yeah, so firstly, I think if we want to look at it as all the stakeholders are engaging with a schedule, right? And that's usually why it gets thrown out. There's so many changes intersecting. It's sort of, as you said, it's got to be a living, breathing, organic flow and workflow. So what Slate does really well is we acquire data through not just our own system, so not just providing the schedule base of the schedule or bringing a schedule in from another system. It's really looked and not just our own forms and anything else, daily logs, we have that in there. But what we do best is we also connect. So if there's subs are using one system, or even if there's PDFs and forms coming in, the intelligence within Slate is connecting, but also acquiring data and through computer vision, through all of these wonderful things. We're bringing that data in and then contextualizing it back to the task. So that is probably the real magic there of the artificial intelligence, bringing that in to provide the insights, but then also the idea of machine learning. So the idea that this is getting better, it's a living, breathing thing. So the more that we do have stakeholders and the more that we use it on a project, the more that that recipe is evolving. As we passed it down over the generations, the more that this was living and breathing, the better it got. And then the last piece of that is, you think about a recipe, it's only as, you and I both get the same recipe right now. You probably have a lot better cooking skills than what I do. You're probably going to make that cake better, or you're going to interact with that cake recipe and you're going to probably achieve it. Mine's going to be a mess, right? So this is where artificial intelligence and the decision assistant or the digital assistant really helps. Imagine having that next to me, having artificial intelligence next to me saying, you're over whipping the eggs. Now, you've over whipped them, so just throw them out and start again. Now I've leveled the playing field. So that idea of this recipe, we're both going to achieve that recipe. And so that the whole idea is we're acquiring data, we're connecting to all the technology out there, but we're also providing a great foundation. But we're connecting, we're bringing that back in, and then that's learning. And the more that you engage with it, the more that it's going to drive that organization intelligence to better it. And that's really, for me, that's where the magic really sits here. This idea of the real product when we talk about construction is in the process. It's how we deliver these projects. And as much as we try, it's these standard operating procedures. It's how we deliver them that really makes one GC better than another, or one sub better than another. We're still really doing the same thing, but it's really how we deliver it. It's in our IP. That's where our IP sits. So the more that we can use artificial intelligence to soak that all in and drive our product, the better we're going to be.
Well, ultimately, we're all suffering from a lack of labor, right? And finding the guy with all the information in his head is we're short on that. And as we start to get tools like Slate that start to level the playing field, we can now broaden the workforce. Right. We
Yeah.
don't have to have the guy with all the information in his head. We just need people that can go task oriented, because Slate starts to put that together for us. Right. The
Yeah.
recipes are identified as we start to really look at that. And I think that's what's really amazing about where we're going with programs like Slate. AI, the future of our game as Slate continues to get smarter and smarter and smarter. It's for sure the future. I do this every single day. I've run a construction company, a CDO group now for over 25 years. I've thousands of projects. I've watched the smartest of the smartest people. And no matter what, the just as you get a team tuned well, as you get a project tuned well, COVID hits, or you lose
Mm.
a person, or you lose the client. The data and the information becomes it's always constant evolution. It never quite is kept. There's never a great book of knowledge. And now programs like Slate really start to create the that one source of truth for an organization. It starts to learn from project to project, right? It can start to, so as let's kind of go through this again. So as you put a window in, right, you start to identify this is a window going in a wood structure. Now that becomes a recipe for installing a window in a wood structure, and you can pull from that again next time you do a similar project.
Exactly. You pull from that, and that's your template. Now, as soon as that template comes in, obviously you're going to put more data, or there's going to be more goes into that from that template to make it an instance, a project instance. Now, as you're engaging with that instance will drive the template. The template will get smarter for the next person, but also that instance is collecting all the data and it's becoming the central source. So that's even another added value, that now you have this collated data, everything relative to that instance, to that project of that window install to come back on as well. But it's also set the template at a higher bar. And you touched on it there with COVID. You spend all this time building these teams, and then one guy leaves. And that's when we look at this labor shortage. And so I did my apprenticeship. As I learned from somebody, right? Now that's uniquely mine. But what this starts to do, unless I teach someone else, what this starts to do is any engagement that I have with the system that's transcending me, it's actually going and bettering the template. So then for you in your company, it's like you're less worried about sort of get that guy under this guy right now so he can learn from that. It's like, just get the guy to use Slate because now he's learning from this guy and my 5 other PMs that are doing a great job. That's where the value just is, how do you quantify that? How do you even, and it's really, that's where it starts to come into its own.
For me, it's time now, right? All these people are, well, the technology is not. Look, start now. The problem that people don't see that with the average, and excuse my language, but the redneck contractor that wants to keep acting like they used to act. I've got this figured out. I don't need any of that technology. They don't have computer systems or communication tools, and they continue to show up, and they're the ones who are the bottleneck for the projects. No matter how good you're doing, if a team can't communicate well with everybody else, ultimately that impacts all of our ability to make money, right?
Yeah.
And when I've got one or two bad apples in a bunch, it affects the entire project and the reliable delivery date. And today, what I'm learning is that look, faster and faster projects are required to go faster and faster, if nothing else because competition's getting more and more. Today it used to be that if someone wanted to go to bid, they could pull from one or two contractors. Today they can go on a software platforms and pull every contractor that's within a 25-mile radius, and they can send out to bid to that group. And now all of a sudden your competition goes way up. Now I know today that type of bidding has really caused a lot of brain damage in our business, right?
Yeah.
You got one guy that says I can do it for 1 month, next guy goes a couple bucks less, next guy goes a couple bucks less. And ultimately what it forces the companies to do is to start to diminish on their level of service and their ability to quality. And when you start to build a recipe and you say, look, you can't, you need 4 guys to put or you need 2 guys to put the window in. And by the way, it also takes delivery time. Look, it's got to be delivered from the manufacturer to here. I got to get from where it's at on the job site over to where I want to install it. I got to have this person install it. The workflow recipes start to make it crystal clear what the requirements are. So now you can go to the people that are bidding it and go, look, I need 5 of your people. Please identify which 5 people are going to fill these roles. Those recipes now, you can't fake it. You can't just say, hey, I'll do my best to get it done when I can. No, look, that's not going to work for me. I've got a recipe and here's my schedule. And if you don't see that I need, person A, person B, person C, person D, if I don't have these 5 people that are all qualified to install to make these recipes, we're going to have a bust in the system. And where I really see the future of it is being very similar to what we have with Uber, right? For me, I see a future where there are no more GCs, there are no more subcontractors. I really do see a future where artificial intelligence, in the design of the project that we do, right? Where we're designing the project. As we design the project, it's sourcing materials and understanding availability that matches the schedule. So as Slate starts to get smarter on the back end of the deal, right? Once it's been awarded, now we start to execute on it. As it starts to gather those recipes and get smarter, as it's built, as it is project's design, Slate will be able to interact with the material selections and make sure they're available to meet the schedules that we're going to start to create. And you can really see how Slate starts to get smarter and smarter and smarter along its path of development.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're touching on something there that's quite close to my heart, and that's the idea of the design. And I've always said that the solution does sit here in the design, and it's about getting the data to the designers and helping them do a better job. And throughout my career path, I went from being on the site through to architecture. And when I first started my architecture firm in Australia, Studio Workshop, we really sat in that world of how do we design something so that we can have machinery, a kit of parts, and then go on site. We really jumped into how do we construct this thing. And that was where Splash Modular, the company that Slate acquired, was the idea of bathroom pods. But we didn't just build bathroom pods offsite. We knew that to build bathroom pods offsite, we had to get the data and we had to help designers design for them. So what we did was we automated the design process and gave designers a configurator. That configurator gave them the right data so that it was designed properly, so that then the bathroom pod could be manufactured and then come to site. Now, fast forward as we get to Slate here and the idea of recipes. My ideal future is that a recipe can actually help inform design, so that when we are designing, we're not just designing intent. We're not just drawing lines on paper anymore. We're not just creating this. We're actually looking at what's the constructability. We're able to select recipes based off methodologies, based off of the intelligence of the suppliers that can deliver that. And we can inform and say, well, you're designing this in Miami. The best methodology is based off of all the suppliers, based off all the recipes. This is the best methodology to build this. This is your cost bracket. This is your time. This is how you're going to resolve that. So now we're going to start to design with far more resolved designs at a greater efficiency, and that's going to resonate back through. Now you're going to have transparency between stakeholders, between design, between subcontractors, between GCs. And that's really that transparency, like you alluded to with the recipe and who and how people are engaging with it, is the most important. Right now it's siloed. Right now it's sort of like, here's your scope, bid on that, like you said, here 50 suppliers, bid on this. And everybody's just, like kicking the can down the road, reducing CapEx, probably increasing OpEx because we're not building as well.
Absolutely. Hold on. I got to give you, I think in all the podcasts, I've never, listen, you're speaking my language. This is where the world is. And Joel, this is why I love what you're up to. The world is done with the way it has been. What we've learned is all we've done is we're going to move the pain from in the project, where, by the way, we're all losing our shirt because of the pain. We're going to move it over to the beginning, and in that design development, in the understanding of the parts and pieces of it, in the development of all of the scope that we're doing, that makes the rest of it so much faster to go along, right? We've designed with materials that are available for our schedule needs. We can also pick from materials, to up to date. Architects have been stuck with one toolbox. If you go to an architect, they've got one kit of parts, and every once in a while, oh look, I've got metal skins for the outside. Hey, I'm fancy. Or now they can pick from a kit of parts, a much larger kit of parts, because now they understand the recipes for it and how they interact with all the material selections. And I think those APIs. So let me ask you, how hard is it as you're developing these? To me, it seems like that's the hardest development, is the APIs between the teams for communication. Talk to me a little bit about how, if
connecting to outside sources. And I think that foundationally, we had to build Slate in and around having its own scheduling tool, having features, right? And it's not so we can go and replace others necessarily. It's more so that we have that foundation to contextualize the data. But it's also over time, we'll build that and they'll be there. There'll be more features to act upon it within Slate. We don't want to keep going. It's such a minefield from the technology stack right now for anybody, and it's overwhelming. So, but we had to learn and we had to look at where we can acquire the data. And, it's sort of Uber isn't Uber without the drivers. We had to go and tap into where that data is to get that, to bring that back. So yeah, that's a whole hard task. You've got to look at all the myriad of ways in how people are running projects, where the data sits, contextualize that data. And so that is, I guess, why we, when the team was founded and they started to get together, why we had the brilliant mind of Senthil, our CTO, join. And he is machine learning, artificial intelligence, advises on a lot of bigger companies and works with some big names. He's a genius. And so he's out there, like from an API standpoint is one thing, right? Connecting to them, but bringing that in and having a system that, again, can contextualize that and provide insights is the biggest. That's the heavy lift. And so, yes, it's a big task. It has been a big task for us to build this product to do that, but it's also the way that we've built that, and because we've spent that time, means that we can acquire data through people's systems and their approach as they sit. It's sort of like you said, you just got to start. And by working with Slate, we can just work with you to acquire your data, no matter how messy it is. When we first started engaging with clients, well, let us tidy the data up. No, just give us access, let our system, and we'll build the system to do that.
It's embarrassing, right? Because I mean, you would think that a company like us, we were around for 25 years and we got all these systems in place and all these projects we do, and then you want to come look into our TP for our data and how we do it. I'm tasked as a founder of the company to go through it. This week I looked at 16 different software packages that we use in different departments in the company. Right, from the way that we do from client acquisition all the way through the estimating team. In estimating alone, there's 4 different software packages that are used just to get from the business development team over to estimating and out to operations. We go through 4 cycles of software, and although each one of those right now is best in class for the tasks that it does, it's really just another opportunity for slippage of data, information loss, places we can duplicate and misrepresent data, and ultimately it's time consuming.
Yeah. And then it all boils down to, like you said, a schedule that gets thrown out at the start of the project. Really, we go through this whole process and then it all gets thrown out. And I think that estimating is a prime example here of the way that we currently design our projects without any cost. We don't really know. It's up in the air. It might be here, it might be there. Then it's like we get a QS, or we have these costs, we establish this cost plan, and then we start to bring it back. We value engineer it to bring it back in line. That whole system, that a prime example of like, why do we even have an estimator? Right? If we have the tools, we have a recipe to inform design, or if we have a recipe, which is something we've worked heavily on, that can read design intent. So you put in the architect's design, our system can extract the geometry and populate the recipe. Now you've got auto estimating. Now you've got something that's, a system that grows. And that's a prime example. I've always said, is like, I hear about these, 5D quantity surveyors that work. It's like the whole point of that is like, you shouldn't have a job if you're working to that level of detail.
No, it's exactly right. Today I was sitting down our estimate, going through staffing and what we're working on, and the question, we go back at, hey, you get a set of drawings from an architect. Now most of them are in Revit, which automatically gives you the opportunity to pop out information, right? And why we don't do that is everybody's afraid to say, well, if I push this button to give you quantities, what if my quantities are off? Are they going to charge me back for it? Look, if you missed up today, we go through estimating, and the problem we have with the estimates that we do is that we have to put in enough cushion because we know we're going to miss something. We know there's a $10,000 miss on every, $500,000 project. There's 3 or 4 of those somewhere. So, we know there's 3 or 4 of them. So we put in for 5 or 6 of them, and it costs the customer that anyways. And because the way that the information is collected, it also takes everybody in the team that much more time. You imagine what it's like to go to a sub and say, look here, Mr. Electrician, here's exactly what you're going to have to do. You're going to need 400 sticks of 10-foot pipe, 3/4 inch. You're going to need uh, 70 1900 boxes. You're going to need 30 amp NEMA 555 outlets, and that you can almost automatically send it to the supply house.
Yeah, even better when the electrician has his own recipe. So his recipe, so he's not even having to look at the project, but his recipe is telling you, GC, this is what that supplier can do it. That's, here it is, here's the information here. Then GC, here it is upstream. That is what it starts to do when it's a digitized workflow, when it's recipes and people engaging with it. And I think that's spelling that out and people understanding that the value there is we're not going to lose our shirt on it, because the transparency is actually going to make us all do better. And there's going to be more margin in there. There's going to be less value engineering. We're not going to have to go, it's going to be designed right. It's then going to be implemented. There's going to be transparency, and we're all going to make money. And I think that's
exactly right. That's we need to make money. We're not making it the way we're doing it today. If we look at an average, let's take a Subway, a little $400,000 Subway shop, right? It cost 5 companies time to go bid it, right?
Yeah.
So five people go bid it. 4 of them lost it, right? 5 of them bid it. All of them had 20 subs. They had multiple subs under every category. 4 of the companies of subs lost it. So before we started the project, we have thousands and thousands of dollars that gets wasted before we even started the project, before it was even awarded.
And then when the one that wins it now has to inflate his price because of the 4 he lost before, right? And this whole process is just so terrible. And it does boil down to, yes, we're designing in 3D software with Revit. And yes, it is capable of extracting that data, but we don't. It's not really ever designed to the level that it could be in there. It's really, Revit is used by architects to just create drawings. But that's what resonates. We then get it to a PDF. The PDF comes in, you use something like Bluebeam, you trace over that, you do your takeoff, you apply it to your cost code. Your cost code is what you bid with big fat margins in it. And then really, you're probably going to break down that into some scopes. That's going to go to someone else. They've got margins in it, right? Because it's still interpretation. We're still looking at design intent. Whereas all of this could just be solved. It could just be so much simpler.
The future of that game, it becomes just like Uber, in that as Revit designs designs it, or artificial designs it using Revit, or whatever AI technology software is used to design a project, and it goes to the marketplace to find the materials and pricing. It also starts to go to the marketplace and understand where labor requirements are. It can go, just like Uber. It can start to understand peak periods and extended labor rates. And, if I land at a Midway Airport at 5:00, my trip from Midway Airport to my house is, $70. If I do it at not rush hour, it's $26. It's 3 times more because I'm landing at rush hour. I want to, I want this car. I want, and the industry is like that as well. I mean, we know this data. We're starting to see that. I was in a room with a group of construction entrepreneurs, and a guy called me out. He goes, I'm like, no, we're always going to have GCs. We'll always have superintendents. And he goes, you're a freaking taxi driver. I go, what? He goes, yeah, you're one of those guys who bought a Shield and he's afraid to let go of it and become an Uber driver. I go, what? He goes, think about this. The future of our game isn't in, to date, the GC and the subcontractor, that's just like the taxi companies. The future will be that plumbers and electricians can go directly to an AI platform, and they'll be able to pull from that, make more money, have clear understanding of where the parts and materials are. And even as they evolve, right, and the designs change, and we're bringing new materials in, they'll even get trained in AI in a way that suits them. If a guy likes to eat his, Cheerios in the morning, and that's where, hey, we got a new PEX product we haven't used. Here's a new clamp that's going to come on. Here's how it works, and here's what you do. The plumber knows plumbing. He just needs to understand the new product that's coming out, and AI technologies will be able to train them on these new parts of it. And you can really see a future where the plumber makes more money. He takes more money home every day, and all the middlemen and the middle companies that it took to get the plumber to the job site to begin with, don't need to go there anymore, right? And we can have now. We were worried that we're going to lose some jobs. Yeah, look, people aren't seeing that technology will lose some of the old fashioned jobs. If we're afraid of that, you might as well go find some cave to live in, right? Go get some cave to live in and get a
Like
spirit.
they're the same people that walk in and like, I'm not using a self checkout because I want to come here. Like it's the same ideas here, and it's like, but yeah, with the same time we said we don't have enough labor, we don't have enough skilled labor here, we can't do this, we can't meet the supply, and then it resonates. We're all overpaying for our homes because of that exact same scenario. But boil that back is we don't even at supply level, we don't even really understand material, equipment, and labor associated to the task. We don't. We use rules of thumb.
That's right. That's right.
And then it's siloed and every pro, and it's just, yeah, and that's, we just throw it there and then we add a margin and hope we win.
That's right.
But, and I did it. We all do it. We all did it. But now at Slate, and when we talk about a recipe is a group of tasks. In every task is material, equipment, and labor associated with that template of how you build that. Right. So now you're a sub, you've got your template. This is how the plumber, this is how you do that. Now at every task, you got material, equipment, and labor. Every time you interact with that recipe, you're consistently checking yourself on the rule of thumb. So you're understanding, no, it took 3 people on that. Or no, it only took 2 on this time. The intelligence is going back. Now that transparency in your own system can help you price it better. So it's not even just like the transparency there. It's like you're going to get so much more efficient at what you do that you're going to be making more money there. And then you're going to be able to price things better. And then that's going to resonate back up. It's like, if you want to talk about solving some of the affordable housing, you want to talk about this. It's like, what can technology do to solve those problems? It all sits in and around here in helping us to do a better job. And I think that artificial intelligence is the machine that we can't live without. It's really, we talk about all these other machines and robotics, but it's like artificial intelligence or the idea of data-informed decisions already helps us. I'm so much smarter with this thing in my hand. I can get an answer to anything you want, including how fast I'm going to die from my sore throat, right? I can go on and Google doctor and figure it out. But the intelligence, the data's there to help us make informed decisions. Now think about that through construction. We don't have it right now.
We don't. And Joel, I am, it tickles me inside to have these conversations. These are the conversations we need to be having. It changes the world and all the parts and pieces that we go through. If we just look at the amount of waste in our industry, from the way we bid it, to the products we bring to it, to the stuff, technology is going to help solve that. And the fear, the little fear that we're going to have to change. Oh my God, I'm going to have to change. Which, by the way, I mean, guys at my age have been changing. I mean, I started this career without computers, and every once in a while I get a little tired of changing. I have to admit it. I want to get a little lazy. But the truth is, if we don't continue to evolve, right? If we don't continue to evolve, we're all, when we're not growing, we're dying.
Yeah.
And that's why I say to people, start now. Jump in Slate, jump into software, jump in here, get started while you can still understand it. Because the problem is, once they really start to get the benefits of Slate, the real change, what's going to happen is there's going to be there's going to be this very huge gap that gets created very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. For the guys that wanted to, that waited, to the people who jumped in, their systems are going to start to evolve. The compounding effect of growth of an artificial technology platform compared to the natural growth of a regular company, it's a multiplier you cannot even see, you can't even imagine. And
I hadn't even thought of that, right? Think of that scenario of just the company that digitizes their workflow into a recipe. And you touched on waste there, waste in estimating, right? So look, probably 20% of your overhead as a subcontractor is pricing those jobs and managing all of that and going through that pre-construction phase. Then let's talk about, I used to have it. I had a factory where I would, after every job, I'd take all the stuff that I'd over-ordered and I'd pile it in there, right? I loved it. It was, I'd go in there, I'd find stuff, whatever we want. But would I go there and count what I had for the next job? No, I just piled up, right? Now think about that waste. So now think about that compounding or that effect in terms of the waste on your process, the waste in material, the waste in all of this that you start to, the compounding effect there is it's exponential. And I think that and all you have to do is digitize your workflow. You have to lay it to acquire the data and make it relative to start moving forward. That's as simple as it is.
Well, I gotta tell you, Joel, I love where you're going with it. I hope that all of I know our audience will resonate amazing with this because that's what we're all looking for. I get feedback from our audience every day about, let's stop this old way of being and charge powerfully into a future where data is going to really help incite what we're doing. You guys are up to some great stuff. Every time you have a breakthrough in the work you're doing, please let this platform be the place where you can speak to the world about it. I really want to make sure that we speak your message, your language. What you're up to is magical, and I see it. I know our audience sees it, and we're glad to have you on today.
Thank you very much. And it's great to be able to get out here and discuss and talk about what we're doing. We've been working on it now, and now's the time that we get to talk about it and help everybody. So yeah, for sure. Anyone that wants to chat, reach out. I'm always happy to chat, even if it's just you want to spitball some ideas. Always happy. And thank you so much for having me on. It's platforms like yours that allow us to get out there and educate the industry and bring it forward.
So if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, shoot me an email, joel.hutchins@slate.ai.
I'll put that down below. I'll put the link down below for everybody to get to that, and a link to Slate AI and get everybody there. Joel, again, brother, it's been an honor to have you on here. Fun conversation. I really enjoyed where we went with this, and I look forward to having you on some more as you guys continue to develop this amazing product.
Cheers. Thank you.